Stories and Documentary Network. The Kingdom of Kush, an ancient civilization nestled along the fertile banks of the Nile River, holds a profound significance in the annals of human history. Originating in the heart of Nubia, Kush emerged as a formidable force against the backdrop of neighboring Egyptian civilization. Its strategic location, cultural richness, and political prowess have left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of Africa and the world. The Kingdom of Kush flourished in the fertile lands of Nubia, a region nestled along the banks of the Nile River in present-day Sudan. Characterized by its lush vegetation and abundant water sources, Nubia served as a natural corridor for trade and cultural exchange between the Mediterranean and sub-Saharan Africa. The confluence of the Blue and White Nile rivers endowed Nubia with fertile soil, facilitating the growth of agricultural settlements and sustaining a burgeoning population. The geographic landscape of Nubia also played a pivotal role in shaping Kushite civilization. Bounded by the deserts to the east and west, Nubia served as a buffer zone between the Nile Valley and the vast expanses of the Sahara. This strategic location endowed Kush with both natural defenses and access to lucrative trade routes, positioning it as a nexus of commercial and cultural exchange in the ancient world. The origins of Kushite civilization can be traced back to the Neolithic period, when pastoralists and agriculturalists began to settle along the banks of the Nile. As these early communities coalesced into organized societies, they laid the groundwork for the emergence of a distinct Kushite identity. By the 3rd millennium BCE, the consolidation of political power and the development of urban centers heralded the dawn of the Kushite civilization. One of the defining moments in Kushite history occurred during the Middle Kingdom period of ancient Egypt, when Nubian rulers established their dominance over Upper Egypt. This period witnessed the fusion of Egyptian and indigenous Nubian cultural elements, laying the foundation for the unique synthesis that would characterize Kushite civilization in the centuries to come. The relationship between Kush and ancient Egypt was marked by a complex interplay of cooperation, rivalry, and cultural exchange. While Kush initially existed as a subordinate ally of Egypt, its geographic proximity and access to valuable resources made it a coveted prize for Egyptian pharaohs seeking to expand their influence southward. Throughout the Old and Middle Kingdom periods, Egypt maintained a tenuous hegemony over Nubia, extracting tribute and manpower from its southern neighbor. However, the balance of power began to shift during the Second Intermediate Period, as Nubian rulers seized control of Upper Egypt and established the Kingdom of Kush as a regional power in its own right. The New Kingdom period witnessed a series of military campaigns and diplomatic overtures between Egypt and Kush, culminating in the reign of the 25th dynasty, also known as the Kushite dynasty. Under the leadership of rulers such as Piye and Taharqa, Kushite pharaohs extended their dominion over Egypt, forging a brief but remarkable chapter in the annals of African history. The Golden Age of Kush heralded a period of unprecedented expansion and territorial conquest, as the Kingdom of Kush asserted its dominance over vast swaths of the Nile Valley and beyond. Buoyed by a combination of military might, strategic alliances, and economic prosperity, Kushite rulers embarked on ambitious campaigns to extend their influence into neighboring territories. One of the most notable achievements of Kushite expansion was the conquest of Egypt during the 25th dynasty, also known as the Kushite dynasty. Led by Piye, the Kushite pharaohs launched a series of military campaigns that culminated in the reunification of Upper and Lower Egypt under Kushite rule. The conquest of Egypt marked the pinnacle of Kushite power and signaled the emergence of a new political order in the Nile Valley. Beyond the borders of Egypt, Kushite expansionism extended into the heart of Africa, where trade networks and diplomatic alliances facilitated the incorporation of distant regions into the Kushite sphere of influence. The conquest of trade routes and commercial centers enabled Kushite rulers to amass wealth and resources, fueling further expansion and reinforcing their status as regional power brokers. At the zenith of Kushite power stood a line of illustrious monarchs known as the Black Pharaohs, whose rule epitomized the splendor and grandeur of the Golden Age. Under the leadership of rulers such as Piye, Taharqa, and Tutankhamun, the Kushite dynasty ushered in an era of cultural renaissance and political stability that rivaled the glory of ancient Egypt. The reign of the Black Pharaohs was characterized by a synthesis of indigenous Kushite traditions and Egyptian cultural influences, manifested in the construction of monumental temples, the proliferation of religious iconography, and the patronage of the arts. Kushite pharaohs, adorned in regal attire and wielding symbols of divine authority, sought to legitimize their rule through the emulation of Egyptian royal rituals and ceremonies. In addition to their military exploits, the Black Pharaohs distinguished themselves as patrons of scholarship, literature, and religious piety, fostering a climate of intellectual inquiry and spiritual enlightenment that permeated every aspect of Kushite society. The royal courts of Kush became centers of cultural exchange and artistic innovation, attracting scholars, scribes, and artisans from across the Mediterranean world. The Golden Age of Kush witnessed a flourishing of artistic expression and architectural innovation that left an indelible mark on the landscape of the Nile Valley. Inspired by the monumental achievements of their Egyptian predecessors, Kushite rulers embarked on ambitious building projects that transformed the urban centers of Meroe, Napata, and Jebel Barkal into veritable showcases of Kushite splendor. At the heart of Kushite architectural marvels were the pyramids of Meroe, a testament to the ingenuity and craftsmanship of ancient Nubian engineers. Unlike their Egyptian counterparts, Kushite pyramids featured distinctive steep angles and narrow passageways, reflecting a unique architectural style that blended indigenous traditions with external influences. In addition to pyramids, Kushite architects erected sprawling temple complexes, royal palaces, and defensive fortifications that served as symbols of royal authority and religious devotion. The temples of Amun at Jebel Barkal and the Lion Temple at Naqa stand as enduring testaments to Kushite piety and artistic excellence, adorned with intricate reliefs, hieroglyphic inscriptions, and divine imagery. Beyond their architectural achievements, Kushite artisans excelled in the production of pottery, metalwork, and jewelry, creating masterpieces that reflected the cosmopolitan influences of the Mediterranean world. The royal tombs of Kushite pharaohs were adorned with lavish funerary goods, including golden ornaments, precious gemstones, and intricately carved statues, attesting to the opulence and sophistication of Kushite culture. Kushite society was structured along hierarchical lines, with distinct social classes that determined individuals' roles, rights, and privileges within the kingdom. At the apex of the social hierarchy stood the royal family, comprising the pharaoh, his immediate relatives, and the courtiers who served as advisors and administrators. The royal family enjoyed immense wealth, prestige, and political power, symbolizing the divine authority vested in the monarch by the gods. Beneath the royal family were the nobility, comprising aristocrats, priests, and military commanders who held sway over vast estates and patronage networks. Nobles wielded considerable influence in matters of governance, religion, and commerce, serving as intermediaries between the ruling elite and the broader populace. They were responsible for upholding social order, adjudicating disputes, and overseeing the allocation of resources within their domains. Below the nobility were the commoners, encompassing farmers, artisans, merchants, and laborers who comprised the backbone of Kushite society. Commoners were subject to taxation, labor obligations, and military service, yet they also enjoyed certain rights and freedoms, including the ability to own property, engage in trade, and participate in religious rituals. Despite their subordinate status, commoners played an essential role in sustaining the economy, culture, and infrastructure of the kingdom. At the lowest rung of the social hierarchy were slaves and servants, individuals who were bound to their masters through debt bondage, captivity, or hereditary status. Slaves performed menial tasks, such as agricultural labor, domestic service, and construction work, under the supervision of their owners. While slavery was an accepted institution in Kushite society, slaves were not devoid of legal protections or avenues for social mobility, as evidenced by instances of manumission and emancipation in the archaeological record. Religion played a central role in Kushite society, permeating every aspect of daily life and shaping the cultural, political, and spiritual landscape of the kingdom. At the heart of Kushite religion was the veneration of a pantheon of deities, including Amun, the chief god of the Kushite pantheon, and his consort, Mut, the mother goddess. Other prominent deities included Khnum, the god of creation and fertility, and Anukat, the goddess of the Nile. Kushite religious beliefs were characterized by a syncretic blend of indigenous Nubian traditions and Egyptian influences, reflecting centuries of cultural exchange and interaction between the two civilizations. Rituals, ceremonies, and festivals served as occasions for communal worship, prayer, and offerings to the gods, reinforcing social cohesion and spiritual unity among the populace. Central to Kushite religious practice were the cults of the royal ancestors, who were venerated as divine beings endowed with the power to intercede on behalf of the living. The pharaoh, as the earthly embodiment of the gods, played a pivotal role in mediating between the divine realm and the mortal world, performing sacred rites and rituals to ensure the prosperity and protection of the kingdom. In addition to formalized religious institutions, Kushite society also embraced animistic beliefs and nature worship, venerating sacred sites, natural phenomena, and ancestral spirits as manifestations of divine power and cosmic order. The cult of the Apodimak, a lion-headed deity associated with warfare and fertility, held particular significance among the warrior elite, who invoked his blessings before battle and sought his protection in times of peril. Kushite governance was characterized by a centralized administrative apparatus that facilitated the exercise of royal authority and the implementation of state policies. At the apex of the political hierarchy stood the pharaoh, who wielded supreme authority as the divine ruler and lawgiver of the kingdom. The pharaoh was assisted by a cadre of appointed officials, including viziers, scribes, and courtiers, who managed the day-to-day affairs of the state and advised the monarch on matters of governance and policy. One of the defining features of Kushite governance was the division of the kingdom into administrative districts, each overseen by a provincial governor or nomarch appointed by the central government. Governors were responsible for collecting taxes, maintaining public order, and enforcing royal decrees within their respective jurisdictions, acting as the king's representatives and agents of centralized authority. The Kingdom of Kush was blessed with abundant natural resources and fertile lands, which formed the cornerstone of its economic prosperity and agricultural advancements. Situated along the banks of the Nile River, Kush benefited from the annual flooding of the river, which deposited nutrient-rich silt onto the floodplains, ensuring bountiful harvests and sustained agricultural productivity. Kushite farmers cultivated a diverse array of crops, including wheat, barley, sorghum, and millet, using advanced irrigation techniques such as basin irrigation and floodwater farming to maximize yields and mitigate the impact of seasonal fluctuations. The cultivation of cash crops such as cotton and flax further enriched the agricultural economy of Kush, providing raw materials for textile production and export. In addition to agriculture, Kush possessed rich deposits of mineral resources, including gold, iron, copper, and semi-precious stones, which served as the foundation of its burgeoning mining industry. Gold, in particular, emerged as a prized commodity that fueled trade and commerce throughout the ancient world, leading to the establishment of lucrative trade routes and commercial networks. The Kingdom of Kush occupied a strategic position at the crossroads of major trade routes that linked the Mediterranean world with sub-Saharan Africa and the Red Sea region. These trade routes facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural influences between Kush and distant civilizations such as Egypt, Greece, Rome, Persia, and Arabia. One of the most important trade routes was the Kushite corridor, which connected the Nile Valley with the Red Sea coast and facilitated the transportation of goods such as gold, ivory, incense, spices, and exotic animals to markets in the Mediterranean and beyond. The port city of Meroe emerged as a key commercial hub along the Kushite corridor, serving as a gateway for trade between Africa, Asia, and Europe. Kushite merchants and traders played a pivotal role in facilitating commercial exchange, utilizing riverboats, caravans, and camel caravans to transport goods along the trade routes. The kingdom's strategic control over key trade arteries, including the Nile River and the Red Sea, allowed Kush to monopolize trade routes and extract tolls and tariffs from passing merchants. In addition to overland trade, Kush maintained maritime trade links with neighboring regions, including the Arabian Peninsula, the Horn of Africa, and the Mediterranean coast. Maritime trade expeditions, facilitated by advanced sailing techniques and navigational knowledge, enabled Kush to access luxury goods such as spices, perfumes, textiles, and pottery, which were in high demand among elite consumers in the Mediterranean world. The economic prosperity of the Kingdom of Kush exerted a significant influence on the Mediterranean world, shaping patterns of trade, commerce, and cultural exchange throughout the ancient world. The export of gold, ivory, and exotic goods from Kush fueled the growth of Mediterranean economies, stimulating demand for luxury commodities and fostering economic interdependence between Kush and its trading partners. Kushite merchants played a crucial role in disseminating African goods and cultural artifacts throughout the Mediterranean world, contributing to the enrichment of artistic traditions, religious practices, and culinary preferences in regions such as Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Phoenicia. The introduction of African ivory, ebony, and incense into Mediterranean markets served as symbols of wealth, status, and exoticism, fueling demand among affluent consumers and stimulating the growth of luxury industries. Furthermore, Kushite economic influence extended beyond the realm of commerce to encompass diplomatic relations, military alliances, and cultural diplomacy with Mediterranean powers. The wealth and resources accumulated through trade enabled Kush to project power and influence on the international stage, forging alliances with Egypt, Rome, and other Mediterranean empires, and participating in diplomatic exchanges and military campaigns that reshaped the political landscape of the ancient world. Kushite infantry was renowned for its proficiency in close-quarters combat, employing spears, swords, and shields to engage enemy forces in decisive battles on land and in fortified cities. Kushite archers, armed with composite bows and arrows, provided ranged support and harassment against enemy formations, using ambushes, feints, and guerrilla tactics to outmaneuver and outflank larger adversaries. In addition to conventional warfare, Kushite armies excelled in siegecraft, employing battering rams, siege towers, and catapults to breach enemy fortifications and compel capitulation. The construction of defensive ramparts, moats, and citadels fortified Kushite cities against external threats, while strategic alliances and military treaties with neighboring kingdoms provided additional layers of security and deterrence. Throughout its history, the Kingdom of Kush engaged in a complex web of alliances, conflicts, and power struggles with neighboring kingdoms and rival powers in the Nile Valley and the wider African continent. The geopolitical landscape of ancient Nubia was characterized by shifting alliances, border disputes, and dynastic rivalries that shaped the trajectory of Kushite diplomacy and military strategy. One of the most enduring conflicts in Kushite history was the rivalry with ancient Egypt, which vied for control over the lucrative trade routes, natural resources, and strategic territories along the Nile River. The intermittent warfare between Kush and Egypt resulted in a series of military campaigns, territorial conquests, and diplomatic negotiations that reshaped the balance of power in the region. In addition to Egypt, Kush forged alliances and conflicts with neighboring kingdoms such as Aksum, Meroe, Punt, and Kerma, each vying for supremacy in the Nile Valley and seeking to assert its influence over trade routes, commercial centers, and natural resources. The competition for dominance often led to armed conflicts, border skirmishes, and proxy wars that strained diplomatic relations and tested the resolve of Kushite rulers. Despite the challenges posed by external threats, Kushite diplomacy also fostered opportunities for cooperation, collaboration, and cultural exchange with neighboring kingdoms and distant empires. Diplomatic missions, royal marriages, and trade agreements facilitated the establishment of diplomatic channels and communication networks that enabled Kush to navigate the complex geopolitics of the ancient world and secure its interests on the international stage. The Kingdom of Kush maintained diplomatic relations with a wide array of ancient empires and civilizations, forging alliances, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges that enriched the political landscape of the Nile Valley and facilitated the transmission of ideas, technologies, and commodities across regional boundaries. One of the most significant diplomatic engagements in Kushite history was the alliance with ancient Egypt during the New Kingdom period, which culminated in the establishment of the 25th dynasty and the reunification of Egypt under Kushite rule. The alliance with Egypt enabled Kush to assert its influence over the Nile Valley, consolidate its territorial gains, and leverage the resources of the Egyptian Empire to fuel its own economic and military ambitions. In addition to Egypt, Kush maintained diplomatic relations with neighboring empires such as Assyria, Persia, Greece, and Rome, each seeking to secure alliances, military support, and commercial privileges in the lucrative markets of the Nile Valley. Diplomatic envoys, emissaries, and ambassadors were dispatched to foreign courts to negotiate treaties, mediate disputes, and forge lasting bonds of friendship and cooperation with neighboring powers. Furthermore, Kushite diplomacy extended beyond the realms of politics and economics to encompass cultural diplomacy, religious exchange, and intellectual discourse with neighboring civilizations. The transmission of religious beliefs, artistic motifs, and literary traditions fostered a climate of cultural convergence and mutual understanding that transcended linguistic, ethnic, and ideological barriers, enriching the tapestry of human civilization and laying the foundation for future collaborations and exchanges. The Kingdom of Kush flourished as a center of artistic expression and architectural innovation, leaving behind a rich legacy of monuments, sculptures, and decorative arts that reflect the splendor and sophistication of ancient Nubian civilization. Kushite art and architecture were characterized by a unique synthesis of indigenous traditions, Egyptian influences, and regional styles that produced a distinctive aesthetic language that continues to captivate scholars and enthusiasts alike. Kushite architecture is perhaps best exemplified by the majestic pyramids of Meroe, which stand as enduring symbols of royal power and religious devotion. Unlike their Egyptian counterparts, Kushite pyramids feature steep angles, narrow passageways, and distinctive funerary chambers that reflect the cultural and technological advancements of Nubian engineering. The pyramids of Meroe, situated amidst the desert sands of Sudan, serve as mausoleums for Kushite monarchs and royal elites, adorned with hieroglyphic inscriptions, reliefs, and symbolic motifs that convey the triumph of life over death and the eternal bond between the earthly and divine realms. In addition to pyramids, Kushite architects erected sprawling temple complexes, royal palaces, and fortified cities that served as centers of religious worship, political administration, and cultural patronage. The temples of Amun at Jebel Barkal, the Lion Temple at Naqa, and the royal city of Meroe are just a few examples of Kushite architectural achievements that showcase the kingdom's mastery of stonemasonry, decorative embellishment, and urban planning. Kushite art encompassed a wide range of media, including sculpture, painting, pottery, and jewelry, each reflecting the ingenuity, craftsmanship, and cultural sensibilities of Nubian artisans. Sculptures of Kushite rulers, gods, and mythical creatures exhibit a distinctive blend of realism and idealism, characterized by smooth contours, expressive faces, and intricate detailing that capture the essence of divine majesty and human emotion. Pottery and ceramics, adorned with geometric patterns, floral motifs, and animal motifs, attest to the vibrancy and diversity of Kushite visual culture, while jewelry made of gold, silver, and precious gemstones serve as symbols of status, wealth, and aesthetic refinement. Kushite literature and language are less well documented than other aspects of Nubian civilization, yet they nonetheless played a crucial role in shaping cultural identity, religious beliefs, and intellectual discourse in the Kingdom of Kush. The Kushite language, known as Meroitic, remains one of the most enigmatic and poorly understood languages of antiquity, with few surviving inscriptions and texts that offer insights into its grammar, vocabulary, and syntax. Meroitic script, a unique writing system derived from Egyptian hieroglyphs, was used primarily for religious and monumental inscriptions, serving as a vehicle for royal propaganda, divine worship, and commemorative rituals. While written literature in the Meroitic language is scarce, oral traditions, folktales, and legends likely formed the basis of Kushite storytelling and cultural transmission, passed down through generations of griots, bards, and oral historians who preserved the collective memory of the kingdom's past. Themes of heroism, divine intervention, and moral virtue permeated Kushite literature, reflecting the values, aspirations, and worldview of Nubian society. The legacy of Kushite civilization extends far beyond the borders of ancient Nubia, influencing the artistic, cultural, and intellectual achievements of subsequent civilizations in Africa and the Mediterranean world. The Kushite conquest of Egypt during the 25th dynasty left an indelible mark on Egyptian art, religion, and political ideology, inspiring a revival of traditional Egyptian motifs, religious practices, and architectural styles that endured long after the decline of Kushite rule. The decline of the Kingdom of Kush marked the end of an era of political, cultural, and economic prosperity that had endured for centuries in the Nile Valley. Several factors contributed to the decline of Kushite civilization, including external pressures, internal strife, and shifting geopolitical dynamics that undermined the kingdom's stability and resilience. One of the primary factors contributing to the decline of Kush was the rise of competing powers in the Mediterranean world, including the expansion of Roman and Byzantine influence in North Africa and the Levant. As Rome expanded its imperial reach into Africa, Kush found itself increasingly marginalized and isolated from lucrative trade routes, commercial markets, and diplomatic alliances that had sustained its prosperity for generations. Internal divisions and dynastic conflicts also weakened the fabric of Kushite society, leading to political instability, social unrest, and fragmentation of authority among rival factions and regional power centers. The succession disputes, palace intrigues, and power struggles that plagued Kushite rulers undermined the unity and cohesion of the kingdom, leaving it vulnerable to external aggression and internal dissent. Environmental factors, such as prolonged droughts, desertification, and soil degradation, exacerbated the challenges facing Kushite civilization, disrupting agricultural productivity, diminishing water resources, and exacerbating food shortages and famine in rural areas. The ecological pressures compounded existing socioeconomic disparities and exacerbated tensions between rural and urban populations, hastening the decline of Kushite society. Despite its eventual decline and dissolution, the legacy of the Kingdom of Kush endures as a testament to the resilience, creativity, and cultural vibrancy of ancient Nubian civilization. The artistic achievements, architectural marvels, and religious traditions of Kush continue to inspire awe and admiration among scholars, enthusiasts, and visitors alike, attesting to the enduring relevance of Nubian heritage in the modern world. The enduring influence of Kushite civilization is evident in the cultural continuity and historical memory of contemporary Sudanese society, where archaeological discoveries, museum exhibitions, and heritage preservation efforts celebrate the achievements and contributions of ancient Nubia to the collective identity of the nation. The rediscovery and reinterpretation of Kushite artifacts, monuments, and inscriptions have reshaped our understanding of African history and challenged Eurocentric narratives that have long marginalized the achievements of non-Western civilizations. Furthermore, the legacy of Kushite civilization extends beyond the borders of Sudan to encompass the broader African continent and the global diaspora, where the achievements and contributions of ancient Nubia have inspired movements for cultural revival, identity affirmation, and political empowerment among African-descended communities worldwide. The rediscovery and reclamation of Kushite heritage offer a powerful counter-narrative to colonialism, racism, and cultural erasure, affirming the dignity, agency, and resilience of African peoples throughout history. The rediscovery and modern understanding of Kushite civilization have been facilitated by advances in archaeology, epigraphy, and interdisciplinary research that have shed new light on the complexities and contradictions of ancient Nubian society. Excavations at sites such as Meroe, Napata, and Jebel Barkal have unearthed a treasure trove of artifacts, monuments, and inscriptions that offer insights into the religious beliefs, political institutions, and cultural practices of Kushite civilization. The decipherment of Meroitic script, the official language of Kush, has enabled scholars to unlock the secrets of Nubian history and unravel the mysteries of royal propaganda, administrative bureaucracy, and religious symbolism that shaped the identity and ideology of the kingdom. Epigraphic studies, linguistic analysis, and comparative research have deepened our understanding of Kushite language, literature, and cultural heritage, illuminating the interconnectedness of Nubian civilization with neighboring societies and distant empires. The legacy of Kushite civilization extends beyond the realm of archaeology and academia to encompass the cultural heritage and national identity of contemporary Sudanese society. Through heritage preservation efforts, educational initiatives, and cultural revival movements, Sudanese communities seek to reclaim and celebrate the achievements and contributions of their ancestors, affirming the dignity, diversity, and resilience of Nubian heritage in the modern world. In conclusion, the Kingdom of Kush stands as a beacon of African civilization, embodying the resilience, creativity, and cultural vitality of ancient Nubia. Through its enduring legacy, Kushite civilization reminds us of the power of human ingenuity, the resilience of cultural heritage, and the enduring quest for meaning and significance that transcends the boundaries of time and space. As we continue to explore and interpret the legacy of Kush, we honor the contributions and aspirations of those who came before us and chart a course toward a more inclusive, equitable, and compassionate future for all humanity. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.